In this tutorial we're going to look at some of the more difficult examples you can be asked on completing the square. And the first one that can arise is this here, where the x squared term has a minus in front of it. So that demands an extra step or two. Let's have a look. You have to rewrite it like this. Y is equal to, you actually take out a minus 1 out of each term, and that becomes minus 4 plus 6x plus x squared. And we can rewrite that in the more familiar way with the x squared term first. X squared plus 6x minus 4. Now that we've got rid of this minus problem, we can just work away as normal with the quadratic inside the bracket, and we can bring the minus 1 along with us for a while, and we'll decide what to do with that later. So it becomes x squared plus 6x. Now, completing the square involves getting half of that number in front of x. So half of that 6 is 3, and squaring it. Half of 6 is 3, squared is 9. So it becomes plus 9. Now we've got to bear in mind that we need a minus 4 overall. So that means we have plus 9 minus 5. Actually, it's not minus 5, it's minus 13, because we need minus 4 overall, so it's minus 13. Now, next step is to recognize the three terms here as a perfect square. And they can be rewritten as x plus 3 to b squared. And instead of minus 13. And it's at this stage that we get rid of the minus 1 again, so it's minus into x plus 3 to b squared. Minus by minus is plus 13. So what we have derived here is the completed square form. Now the next step, usually you're asked to complete the square in connection with sketching graphs. And what we're going to do is we're going to sketch the graph of that function there. And the method is to build it up step by step. You always start off with these quadratics with just y equals the simplest quadratic, which is x squared. And we should know that this is a U shape with a minimum at 0, 0. Now we come back to the equation here, and we notice that it's not x squared. The first part of it is x plus 3 to be squared. That plus 3 shifts the graph 3 places to the left. So the x plus 3 part shifts the graph. It keeps its shape, it just shifts 3 to the left, so it would look like this. Minus 3, 0. So that's that taken care of. Now, as I said, we keep building up the graph bit by bit. Now we have to take care of this minus. And what a minus always does to a graph is it just flips it on the x-axis. Plus becomes minus, minus becomes plus. So we have to look at that next. When you put a minus in front, it just literally turns upside down. So that point itself doesn't change, it pivots on that point, minus 3, 0. And finally, the plus 13. We've all this bit taken care of over here, and if this is this part of the y, and when you add 13 to the y value, that's like adding 13 to all the y values on your graph, so it brings it up the y-axis by 13. So you finally end up with y is equal to minus into x plus 3 to b squared plus 13. So the final graph should look something like this. It keeps its overall shape. It's just minus 3, and it's shifted up from 0 to 13. So this is the kind of thing that completing the square allows you to do. It allows you to make the connection between this form here and the graph. And you should be able to deduce the graph straight off from the complete a square form. If you look here, when it's x plus 3, you notice that the x coordinate is minus 3. When it's plus 13 here, you notice the y coordinate is 13. Another difficulty that can arise when you're completing the square is this, a number in front of the x squared. And to complete the square, you can't leave that number there. You have to have the x squared on its own, so we must divide across by the 2. And we do it like this. Y is equal to, if you divide across by 2, you end up with x squared plus 4x plus 5 over 2. Of course, you can't just divide across without compensating. So if you divide across inside the bracket, you must multiply outside the bracket. Once you've done this, you can now proceed to complete the square as normal. 2 into x squared plus 4x. You get half that number in front of x, which is 2, and square it, which is 4 again. And we have to bear in mind that we need to have plus 5 over 2 overall. We only have 4. So we need something in there to bring it back to 5 over 2 again. This is something we can do in our head. You'll notice that 4 is just 8 over 2. We need 5 over 2. So 8 over 2 minus 3 over 2 would give us 5 over 2. So the missing term is minus 3 over 2. And yet again, we now group these 3 terms because those 3 terms make a perfect square. And you get y is equal to 2 into x plus 2 to b squared. And we still have minus 3 over 2. It's at this stage that we multiply into 2 again. So it's 2 times x plus 2 to b squared minus 2 times 3 over 2 is just simply 3. And finally, we have it in completed square form. As always, we have to now plot this graph, and we yet again build it up in stages. Start off with y equals x squared, which has a minimum at 0, 0. And we move on to the next step, which is add the 2. And we should know what that does. It keeps the shape. All it does is move the graph to the left by 2, so it becomes minus 2, 0. Now this is one we haven't come across in these examples so far. It's the 2 in front. And if you think about what that 2 does, this is the y value so far inside in the bracket. It multiplies it by 2. It multiplies all our y values by 2, so they're all doubled effectively. This, if you double all your y values, this has the effect of making the graph thinner. So what it does is, if I just for a minute put down the previous graph again, which is minus 2, 0, every value is doubled. So for example, that one would go up to there, that one would go up to there, and so on. And if this one is doubled, you see 2 times 0 is 0, so the y value doesn't change. So our new graph is something like this. It's just a thinner version of the old one. So that's all that does. And finally, the minus 3. We've come across this before. All that does is move the whole graph down by 3. So the latest version of our graph is the red version. So if we just imagine that being moved down 3 places, so it goes to minus 2, 3. So the final answer would be a thinner graph that goes down to minus 2 minus 3. And that's the y equals 2, so that's the final version of it, x plus 2 to be squared, x plus 2 to be squared minus 3. So there you have it, again the link between the sketch and the completed square form. So the link again should be fairly clear. When it's x plus 2 here, it's minus 2 here. When it's minus 3 here, it's minus 3 here.